Welcome to the Listen for Life podcast with Genevieve Richardson. Genevieve is a speech-language pathologist rehabilitating adults with communication challenges after a stroke or due to a neurological impairment. Get equipped with knowledge from experts in the field and professionals you need to know. We'll hear stories and experiences from others who are navigating life with aphasia. So, put your earphones in and take a walk outside. This isn't just a podcast. This is a community, a resource, and a support system. We're in this together. Do life.
Welcome, Ralph Preston, to the show. I am so honored to have you here. You are a stroke survivor, and you and I made contact through Facebook last year, and then I dropped the ball. And then I got back on the ball and we connected last week. And I would love for you to share your story and all of the amazing things you're doing in the stroke community.
Okay. Well, that could take a long time, but I'll give you a condensed version of my story. Basically, I had a right side hemorrhagic stroke, left side affected, April 4th, 2008. So my stroke anniversary was 16 years and 3 weeks ago today. And I spent 5 days in neuro that I don't remember. Then I spent 17 days in a rehab hospital, and I jumped on everything. At the rehab hospital, I had them bring my camera so I could learn how to make the C again, to adjust the lenses and things like that. And I did a lot of therapy there, and I started to get better. They did send me home in a wheelchair. I'd walked once. I actually walked out of the hospital with my PT, kind of shaky, because I'd only ever walked once before, the day before. And my cat wants to join us. So when I got home, I just said, I'm going to stay on top of this. And I did literally 10 hours a day of therapy for the next 15 months. And I know that not everybody can do that, either physically, and not everybody's quite as intense as I am. But that's what I did every hour on the hour. I did 15-minute sessions and lay down, never took a nap. I'd lay down and let my brain rest for 10 minutes, and I'd go at it. Every other hour I did walking, and then the other hours I split between my shoulder and my hand, and I got a lot of recovery out of my hand. But I did that early, and I did it I got home at 5 o'clock the day I got released from the hospital, but I started the next day. And I also said, the longer I sit on day 4 or 5, I said, the longer I sit in this wheelchair, the more I'm worried about getting stuck in it. So actually folded it up and put it in the laundry room and took it back at the end of the month's rental. And I did a couple of crawls across the room because I couldn't walk all by myself. And I did a lot of wall walking for the first month or two, going down the walls. But that doesn't get you across the room. And I started helping people pretty early on. 2 of my friends said they visited me in the hospital, and I was talking about helping people. I don't know how I was going to help anybody in a wheelchair, but I said, well, I don't remember that, but it sounds like me. So I had this idea that everybody, when I walked out of the hospital or left the hospital, you leave all your resources behind. You have all these therapists and doctors, neurologists, nurses,
Yes.
people you can ask. If they don't know it, they'll call somebody else. And all of a sudden, they send you home, and you have no resources. And 790,000 people a year have a stroke in the U.S., and they send all of us home to reinvent the wheel for ourselves. And I said, this is just plain stupid. Everybody should get a DVD. I'm a video guy by profession. I said, everybody should get, and DVDs were the delivery format at that point. Now it would be online streaming. But everybody should get a DVD or a set of DVDs that tells them how to get better.
That's right.
Pre-stroke, I'd done things like when it was raining, I'd do Leslie Sansone's Walk Away the Pounds to get aerobics inside. I wanted to look at my TVs up there. I wanted to look at my TV and do like arm exercises. and that kind of thing. So I started chopping that idea. A lot of hospitals were behind it. Nobody could fund the whole thing because I got it budget down to $300,000 or $400,000. It's a couple $1 million project,
Yeah.
and I shopped at different places. Nobody could do the whole thing. Medical University of South Carolina wanted to do a branded version. They had half the money, and marketing was going to put up the other half, but marketing said no. Went through different iterations and finally came upon Tri-State Stroke Network. They wanted to do it. They were going to get funding. They were funded by the CDC. We started, and a month or two into the whole thing, we hadn't shot anything or done anything. We were just planning. The CDC pulled the plug on all 5 regional stroke centers, and they were gone.
Wow.
So now, 5, 6, 7 years out from my idea, and I'm not doing anything. I'm getting embarrassed about, because I always do what I say, and I hadn't been able to do what I said, and that bothered me. So, lifelong video guy, but I never appeared on camera. I don't like to be on camera. I'm behind the camera, and I said, Ralph, you just got to suck it up. You own a camera, you own an edit system, you know how to use them both. You need to point the camera at yourself. So about 7 years ago, I started Stroke Buddies on Facebook, a Facebook group that now we have about 20 versions, subgroups on specialty things. And I already had a YouTube channel for my demo reel and stuff for getting work. So I started shooting the exercise videos and putting them on my YouTube channel as much as I didn't want to be on camera. So that's the
Yeah.
short version of how I got, that far. I mean, since then, Stroke Buddies, I put 25 people, stroke survivors, and a couple medical professionals in the group when I started it, and about 5 or 6 of them bailed the first day. It took about a year and a half to get to 100, and took another year to get to 1,000. Now, between all the groups I run, there's a little bit of overlap, but there's about 36,000 people. So figure 30,000 different people.
Mm-hmm.
Are all of them active? No, not everybody's active in a Facebook group. But so I don't know what kind of influence I have. I hear about it all the time. I just got off of our Zoom meeting that we have on mental well-being, and somebody was in there, said she found me in the hospital and started doing my videos 2 years ago, and it really helped her. And so, I mean, that's great because I just keep firing.
Yes,
Just take the
you do.
shotgun approach. I just keep firing. I don't know how many people out there I'm influencing. I don't really care. I mean, I do care because they're all human beings behind those little profile pictures.
That's a
We're
great
not a
point.
bunch of pixels.
That's right.
We're not a bunch of pixels. We're real people. And so, I mean, it's nice to meet somebody who you had an influence on for 2 years that you have no idea who they are. I mean, that makes me feel like, what I'm doing is kind of working. So,
Yeah, I'd say it is. Well, I introduced one of my clients today to some of your videos on YouTube. And I'm grateful to have you as a resource and to have this conversation with you. You are an inspiration, Ralph. You don't seem to take no for an answer. You do what you say you're going to do. You keep going forward. You didn't want to be on camera, but how many videos are you up to now on YouTube?
380.
Yeah, I'd say you overcame. You overcame that, but for a good reason, right? You're
Right.
here.
Yeah. There was purpose behind it.
That's
And,
right.
I've done, not all of them are exercise. A number of them, we have breath class, yoga class. I have a Tuesday Zoom meeting, science, recovery and science. I try and talk to people like yourself, speech and language pathologists, OTs, PTs, neuroscientists, neurologists. I'm a big believer in science, but more than that, I'm a big believer in taking a focused approach to recovery. Anything you do in life, the more focused you are on the quality of what you're doing, thinking about like what you're doing and why, as opposed to just doing anything, I think you get better results. And I know that's true in stroke recovery. So people say, well, why do you do this? And it's really simple. I'm trying to be the person that I wish I could have talked to after my stroke, but they did not exist.
Yep. Period.
So, yeah, when I had my stroke 16 years ago, I found one video on stroke recovery from Australia, and I know how to do searches. I did Boolean searches, I did everything. There just wasn't anything out there. Now I got 380, and there are probably 3,800 people with stroke recovery channels out there. I mean, I could name 10
Mm-hmm.
off the top of my head. So, I'm not a PT, I'm not an OT, so I'll never be a Dr. Tara Tobias or Elise Newland, who are a neuro PT and an occupational therapist. But I think I bring something to the table in that I lived through it on the other side.
That's right.
I know what it's like to get out of the wheelchair. I know what it's like to not be able to drive, to be frustrated, to be depressed, to all the things that you go through in a stroke. And as I get farther and farther out, I try not to forget those things, because as you get farther and farther out, you tend to normalize. But I'm dealing with, like, sometimes, people who we've had people in the groups that are still in the hospital that join the groups. So, some of these people are pretty raw.
Yeah.
My main message is get on it, jump on it now. You have neuroplasticity that lasts a lifetime, but there's something called spontaneous healing for the first 6 months or to a year. That's why the doctors will sometimes tell people, I wish they didn't. I don't know why they do, maybe to motivate them, but it scares a lot of people. People come on the groups and say, doctor said I'm at 6 months. The doctor said I won't get any better after here. Well, is there hope for me? Of course there is, because they've done treadmill tests 20 years out with stroke survivors from 1 year out to 20 years out, and everybody showed improvement.
That's right.
So neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to learn, which they didn't think used to think you were born with a brain and that was it, but the plastic meaning malleable or
Mm-hmm.
learnable, it lasts a lifetime, but you definitely have more of it closer to what medical people call the insult, the stroke. So when you sit around and have want to go back to the you that you were the day before your stroke, which I'm sorry to say for all the newbies out there listening, it ain't going to happen. You have to work on becoming, well, when I walked out of the rehab hospital, I was waiting on my physical therapist. And I said to the nurse at the nurse's station, I was waiting for Kathy to come to walk out. I didn't even know the nurse. I just blurted out, it just popped in my head. I'm going to be the best new me I can be.
Wow.
And that's what I try and convince people that they need to do. And the more you jump on it, I got all over my hand because I had a hippie leather shop. I made leather goods, silver goods, video cameras. My hands are important to everybody, but I've always taken care of mine, babied them. I don't like the idea of not having a hand. So I jumped all over it, and I was rolling my fingers. I do it with my affected hand only because it's a lot easier to just bilaterally. I didn't know about bilateral therapy.
Right.
I reinvented the wheel at home. I came up with all kinds of things that turn out to be valid practices. I did everything with my left hand, which is a lot like putting the oven mitt on the other one. I didn't wear an oven mitt, but I just focused on doing everything with this hand. I didn't hear about constraint-induced movement therapy, CIMT, from Dr. Taub until about 2 years ago. But I did
Ah,
it. My version of it 16 years ago. I called it the left hand Olympics because I was doing everything with my left hand. And I would do stuff like my right hand. I had to use it sometimes, like putting a water pitcher back in the refrigerator. So I would carry it with my left hand, put it in my right hand, open the refrigerator with my left hand, put it back in my left hand, put it in the refrigerator, close it. So all I did with my right hand was hold it for 3 seconds while I opened the refrigerator. So it's called functional therapy. I never heard that term until a few years ago also, and it's been studied and it's valid. And I encourage people to do that because when you involve your hand in daily tasks, you're kind of you're forcing your brain to learn.
That's right.
Is it frustrating? Incredibly frustrating. When you can't do something, when you're trying to chop an onion, you can't even hold it still. When you're worried about,
Chopping off a finger.
pro tip here,
Yep.
always keep the knife in your unaffected hand. I never drawn blood, but I've had two little accidents where my left hand, everybody who has a stroke, every once in a while your hand goes, whoa, and twice I ended up like hitting the point of the knife with my other hand. But other than that, I haven't, and didn't break the skin.
Okay.
So pro tip is, keep the knife in the unaffected hand where you got control and just keep at it. Because, a number of cuss words were issued during that, time because it's real frustrating. But what choice do you have?
Well, let's
You
talk
can
about
choose to
that.
get better or not.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that, because if you're interacting with your communities, your 20 different communities on Facebook, and you're estimating 30,000 people that are interacting with your group or with your content, give us an idea of what you're seeing in the stroke community. Where are people's mindsets?
Well, there are different kinds of people. So,
Well, sure.
we get, but you get, okay, well, let's start with some people are just go-getters like me. I have a friend, Bob Anderson, who didn't have insurance, and he started, he got better like I got better quickly because he jumped all over, he did it all day. He knew he didn't have anybody. He made up his own program. I met him about day 4 or 5. He was still paddling in a wheelchair, and I told him how to paddle backwards. And then I followed him and helped him where I could. But mainly he got better because he put in the time. He wanted to get better. And believing that you can get better is called mental imagery or mental practice. If you don't think you can do something, you've already talked yourself out of it. Don't bother.
Right.
So what do I see? I see so few people like me. The biggest problem in the stroke groups is everybody wants to go back. They think, somehow. When I was in the rehab hospital, everybody wanted to go home. They acted like they're going to push the wheelchair across the threshold of their front door and they were going to get up in their living room and walk around and go back to their normal life. It's not going to happen. Can you get better? Yeah, you can get better. Demonstrate my hand. Well, do it without the other hand. It's easier. It's amazing what you can do. I'm not even thinking about, and I'm touching all the same fingers because
Mm-hmm.
your brains are wired to be bilateral, and you can do bilateral therapy.
That's right.
I fool around with a lot of stuff. So, here you go. So the only thing I do back here is tie my hair back. So I potentially never gotten good back there, so I can do this demonstration. So basically, if I do this, you see I got some shake, and I don't do it very well at all. And so then you do the other hand. Look at that.
Straightens it out.
Totally
Interesting. That's
smooth.
great.
So what I did a lot of times was I'd do 5, and then I'd start doing them. Watch. 1, 2, 3. How many you get? Wow, 4. I haven't done this in 2 years. 5, 6. Boy, I think a record's 9, 7, 8. I'm starting to get a little shake now. I'm not going to call that a record, but I clearly did it 5, 6 times by patterning my
Yeah,
brain.
you
So
sure did.
I'm a bit of a maniac. I do that all the time. I'm always fooling around with stuff. I'm also an adapter. It's part of not taking no for. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, there's no such thing as no
That's right.
in my world. What you do is you figure out a way to adapt it, and you come at it a different way. You problem solve. You do whatever it takes to make it happen, because that's the way you get better. Is everybody like me? No. But that gives me a place in the world because a couple of things. Well, I've been helping people for somewhere between 14 and 15 years, and I've done 16 people in person, one of them for 5 years. So, I put hands on people. I've worked under a physical therapist. I volunteered at a therapy clinic for 6 months and did, I didn't make up everything. I also am a big believer in, the therapists know things I don't, but I know things they don't in the sense that I lived through it. So back to the Facebook groups. You got some people that think therapy is getting on Facebook and interacting with people, and it's not. You really have to put in some amount of time. People say how much time. I would say I would recommend, if you can do it, doing a couple hours every day, 7 days a week. Another thing Dr. Taubes discovered was if you do it in one block, of course, that's hard. People have neuro fatigue. People have muscle issues. They just don't have the strength. So to tell somebody to do 2 hours a day, and if you can, do it in a 2 hour block, because it's better than doing, smaller chunks. I mean, some people can follow that advice, some people can't. So, what we try and do and one other thing that I do is, I guess because I did pretty well, and people look at me and say, well, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. So I guess I'm in the business of providing hope. However, I will not provide false hope. I won't lead anybody on. When people say, well, I get better, I say, if you work, you will get better than you are. I can't say whether or not you're going to get better. No one can. Actually, the only person who can is you. Not you, Genevieve, but your attitude and the amount of work you put in determines how much better you get. And I've never seen anybody who worked who didn't get better than they were. And so that's what I stand on. I'm not going to tell somebody, yeah, I think you'll get better. Actually, 2 doctors told me I might spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. I didn't like that at all. And the third one, right before I was getting ready to leave, said, I think you'll do all right. And I said, well, the other 2 doctors said I might be in a wheelchair. What makes you say that? And he said, you're stubborn.
That's when that stubbornness really does pay off.
And I stopped talking to let that sink into some of your viewers, because being stubborn and not taking no for an answer are things that serve me well, and I've seen them serve other people well in the stroke community. And a lot of what we do. So the point of the Facebook groups is, I knew that, I read the statistics, 790,000 people had a stroke, because I was saying, well, this is stupid to send us all home to reinvent the wheel. But I also sat at home thinking I was the only one going through this, and every stroke survivor does it. So the first thing that groups provide is a community of other people like them, where they feel like they're not the only one going through this. They can turn to help. They feel like they can say whatever they want to other people. They feel like that they're going to be understood because the other people in the group, and yes, we allow in therapists, and I do, caregivers, family members. I've had people say we should only have stroke survivors in here. I said, fine, I don't say it quite like find another group, but I actually did say to that person, the last person who did, well, if you want that kind of group, start it yourself, because I'm not changing. Part of my deal is I get these neuroscientists and physical therapists and occupational therapists. I've had 2 PTs and one OT who've had strokes, a neuroscientist who had a stroke. They all returned to their practices. So they know both sides of the coin.
They sure do.
And what I try and do, what often happens, so I saw Dr. Hetzler, the neuroscientist today, was I answered a question about vision returning. And again, I didn't say it's going to come back or whatever. I said occipital lobe stuff is tough. And I didn't know where they don't often say. They just want to hear that they're going to get, that their vision is going to come back. Well, Dr. Hetzler, who's done 7 presentations for us on my Tuesday show, Recovery in Science, answered the question as a neuroscientist. So I'm kind of a beggar. I find people, I ask them to come on. I don't pay anybody. And one of the things that I like is to ultimately bring them into the community, so that, isn't it great to have like a neuroscientist answering a question like that, or like Mitch Raymond, is a PT. We had a stroke at 6 and he became a PT.
Hmm.
He's got some real valuable insight. He's a practicing physical therapist. So
That's right.
he never says he is, but some people are sensitive about licensing. Anyway, he answers questions, and you've got like an, another PT voice in there. So I've been trying to build that kind of community, and we run clean groups. I'm not a big fan of memes. We kind of limit them somewhat. We let people post them, but you're not going to post 2 a day every day
Okay.
in the groups, because there are only so many. They're all don't give up, and some people need that, so we allow them. But we try and those things. Reason why we don't want 2 a day from everybody is they push down all the videos I post, all the real content articles people post, stuff like that. When people come to a group, one of mine, I want them to find. I figure everybody out there is going to a group or a YouTube channel has got one thing in mind: what's in it for me for my recovery. Period. And if you're not delivering that, then you're not doing your job. So I want people to find real content there, and not everything pushed down by other stuff. So the other thing is, I found that people respond to the culture around them. So we try and keep real positive stuff. Being a video person, I've always posted videos. I've found other people who post videos and invite them getting better at home, because I think that's the model. So we got a number of people posting videos of them getting better at home using a broom handle or whatever. And so I invite them to come on over. They see other people posting videos, they post their videos. Now, the other thing is we get new people come in and they see positivity, so they act positive. They see videos. So we've had people who weren't making videos suddenly say, well, everybody's making videos, so I should make videos and post them. So we try and keep a real positive culture going, because that's what you want people to see when they land
Mhm.
in your group the first time, and every time they come back. Real content and positivity and people helping each other. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, I noticed you had a group about healthy cooking and definitely
yeah,
exercise. Give us a little taste of some of these subgroups you
well,
have.
yeah, I started some of the bigger ones a couple of years ago. I mean, the wellness group is 7,000 people. The main Stroke Buddies group's 8,700. The wellness group grew from 400 people last May. In 11 months, it's grown from 400 people to 7,000 people.
Wow.
And in the wellness group, we promote, we have a nutrition after stroke group. I started them at the same time. But then we have a functional nutrition chef who posts recipes. She also knows about brain health. She's done a couple presentations. She posts stuff a couple times a week in both nutrition and wellness. So in wellness, we promote nutrition, breathing, yoga, mindfulness, and what just overall wellness. And I'm not a big advocate of, if people can get off medicines with by working with their doctor, then great. But I have a disclaimer there where we say, we're it's not safe to just go out on your own. Supplements aren't monitored. They can interact with your other medications. You need to be working with a doctor. Got no problem with people trying to go the natural path. I'm an old hippie boy. And so I actually had my stroke because I didn't want to take the blood pressure pills. I
Mhm.
dropped 25 pounds. And here's another warning to everybody out there listening. I dropped 25 pounds and about 20 points off my blood pressure, and I still had a stroke at under 150/95.
Mm.
My 150/90 is where it turns red, and I was just barely into the red, and you can still have a stroke. So, and I tell people, I don't know what I was not thinking, because I didn't want to take the pills the rest of my life. And guess what? Now I do. Now I have
Wow.
to maintain my blood pressure. So I don't know what I was not thinking, but I try and take the natural approach. I ended up with a stroke. So you have to be careful. Okay, back to the. So nutrition and wellness were probably some of the first couple. Actually, there may have been some. We have a bunch of real small, three, 400 groups. I met some guitar players who wanted to. Well, I put two of them together, and I formed a group, Guitar After Stroke, and now we got almost 400 people in there. They're all guitar players, and they're talking about different techniques to get their fingers back. They record one-handed or one and a half-handed videos and put them up and encourage other people. They have their own Zoom meeting on
Nice.
Saturdays.
Love it.
And so you don't need 30,000. There's 300 people that are
Yeah,
benefiting from that.
that's right.
We got about 300 and something more in gaming. That was another one earlier. A lot of people, I kept seeing people go, I was a gamer. Does anybody play do gaming after a stroke? And what kind of controller do you use? So we got a bunch of them. They talk about what controllers work for best for total one-handed controllers, what games will work with those controllers, what kinds of games are designed to help you cognitively recover. And then just kind of mushroom from there. One of the most recent ones is golf. I don't know why I didn't have golf. And one before that was photography, and I'm a photographer. So, just it's a sharing thing.
Yes.
It's even more focused community. Not only are you a stroke survivor, but you were a photographer or an amateur photographer or a hobbyist, or you actually somebody joined the other day who wants to get into what can't do her old hobbies, and she wants to take up photography as a post-stroke hobby. So I sent her over to that group, and because we got people shooting one-handed, we got you know so what else do we have? A bunch of others: sewing and knitting and crafting, puzzles and brain games. I had a friend who did jigsaw puzzles for cognitive and left-hand therapy. I formed a group for her, and I was a couple hundred people in it. So,
How would
um,
people best find some of your groups or these kind of niche groups like the guitar group? Is it aphasia or, well, it probably wouldn't be aphasia, it'd be stroke and guitar?
well, we have an aphasia after stroke group. There's a bunch of them. We have stroke ambassadors. That's the concept of going in the hospital and talking to people. There are a bunch of them, but all of them say guitar after stroke, a stroke buddies group,
Ah,
gaming after stroke, a stroke buddies group. So if you type in stroke buddies into the main Facebook search, you get about 15 or 16 of the 20. It doesn't call them all up, but yeah. And the other thing is I keep a pin post at the top of wellness and fitness kept growing so fast. And I didn't know fitness went from a couple hundred people to 2,000 in the last year. So I had a welcoming post where I listed all the groups and clickable links and all the breath class and Am I okay and the Tuesday science thing. And then when we were holding yoga classes, all the resources, because most of the groups are run by somebody who may or may not be typically a stroke survivor, but they don't answer questions. They don't generate content. We generate a lot of content. And so when you got new members coming in, you want them to know that they've landed someplace different than the other groups and how to find that content. So that thing's got my YouTube channel, a list of the 20 groups. They're all clickable. The Zoom links to the breath class and to all the meetings we have. And of course, it ends up about this long, and I don't know if anybody gets to the end of it because people don't tend to read very far. When I do important posts, I try and put everything that I can in the first 5 lines because I
yep,
figure nobody's going to read past there.
that's true.
And I put the link up there a lot of times because you get too verbose and people won't find your stuff,
Yeah,
so they bail.
that's right.
I mean, so
Where do we find you on YouTube?
at Stroke Buddies.
At Stroke Buddy. So youtube.com/ at the @ Stroke Buddies. We'll link to all
Or
of
you,
your sites in the show notes just so people can find it
well,
easily.
I have one channel, and I have about 5 or 6 videos that aren't stroke. I hid most of the rest of them because they were old client things. They didn't have to do with stroke. And Well, lately I've been generating a lot more stroke stuff, but a few years ago I was still generating some of that, so it was like a mix. So I took this out of the mix and made it all stroke stuff, so it was easier to find. Then I actually talk about people I didn't know about. So in one of my groups one day, somebody said, "Well, I've been following Ralph Preston's videos for about a year and a half, and they're really helping me. And here's a playlist of them." And I went, "I don't know who you are, Rebecca Finch." She ended up helping me for a couple of years before she had another stroke. But I don't know who you are, and here you have a playlist of my videos, and I don't know how to make a playlist. So that day I went to YouTube and figured out how to make playlists, and now I have everything. I got about 20 of them. So you can go to playlists on the channel. You can find like walking better, chair yoga, breath class, OTs and PTs, all the talks I've had with physical and occupational therapists, the Tuesday Science and Recovery, ankles, shoulders, core exercise, walking better, hand. Uh, I'm running out of gas here. I'm sure I could. Well, Dr. Hetzler's done 7 presentations, a neuroscientist, so I've made him a playlist.
Neat.
I have one for all the like instant live phone videos. Most of the ones I do, I shoot with a big camera and I edit them and voice them over. But sometimes I just do what other people do and hold up the phone and
That's right.
make a video. So I've got like phone videos, playlists and stuff. So I'm trying to make it easy for people to find them. And I've kept everything to Stroke Buddies because I suppose it's branding.
It is.
You know, if you want people to find you, you have to make it easy for them. Whenever I post anything, I got clickable links and stuff. People comment and say, "Well, just go find Rehab HQ on YouTube." Well, it's not going to happen. People aren't going to go to YouTube and type in Rehab HQ to find Tara Tobias. If you want to help somebody, you drop a link. You make it really easy because that's the way people work.
Yep,
Um,
for sure.
so
Tell us,
that's
Ralph, what's your most current project you're working on? Something about Tai Chi or something else you want to tell us about?
Well, I started doing yoga 3.5 years ago. My sister-in-law, my daughter's a yoga teacher for almost 30 years. And my sister-in-law has been involved, and she got her teaching thing in 2007. And she started adaptive chair yoga class. And I started, and I found it was real beneficial. I could hardly do like the warrior poses, even standing up behind a chair, holding onto a chair. And as I've done it, I can push the chair aside, and I can go right into Warrior One. No chair, no problem. So it's been real good for me for balance. So one of the things that I do is, I don't like making it about me. It's not about me. Actually wouldn't post like pictures of me, like videos of me rolling my hands so I can get down on the ground and back up without touching anything, including my body. And I wouldn't post that stuff because I thought it was bragging. And several of my friends came on and said, "No, you have to post that stuff. It's inspirational to other people." So I do it, and I do it. So part of the deal is letting people see. I call myself the crash test dummy. I'm willing to do anything. I took a yoga lesson with a woman who told me she was going to have me do downward dog and get up with the sun salutation. I said, I can't do either one of those. So what did we do? I set my iPhone on a tripod and we went at it. And I did it and I didn't fall.
Wow.
And people can see me like, um, trying. So
That's
you have
right.
to put yourself out
That's
there.
right.
Put yourself out there. That's actually having a talk on Tuesday with Dr. Julie Shortfeger, who's a PhD physical therapist. She's done 3 presentations. See, once I get some of these professionals involved, if you have a good community, it works both ways. They say, this guy's helping people. So if I give up my time, then it's being effective versus, well, this group is nothing but memes. And a lot of the people who presented have become members of the group and contributed. So we're having a talk on put yourself out there, and it's two ways: mentally and particularly physically, So let's see, this week I went bike riding again for the first time in a couple of years. I practiced getting on and off in my driveway and then went,
Off
no
you went.
problem.
Wow.
So current projects. So after I've been thinking about Tai Chi for several years, and I took a class with some folks, and I approached them about doing adaptive Tai Chi, and they were open. And I came back the second week to talk about it, and they went, absolutely not. So I found another Tai Chi teacher who I've been working with. I took my 7th lesson today. I'll be the crash test dummy. I'll appear with her and show people that, I'm not any better at this than you might be, but I'm out here trying.
That's right.
So Tai Chi is one. I'm also about to start working with a neuro Pilates guy, and he's going to allow me to take private lessons from him and record them, and I'll put them on my YouTube channel. And I'll be working on me, but I won't be working on me. I'll be asking him, like, well, here's one of the common problems that stroke survivors do. So teach me what you would do with me to solve drop foot problems or shoulder movement issues or whatever. I know what all the issues are. So, I will steer it towards what's good for the whole community. Will I get better and learn stuff? Sure. So there's that. What else I think is important? My daughter keeps talking about weight training, particularly as she get older. So I'm kind of looking. I've actually found a stroke survivor, I think, she was a weight trainer before, and she's kind of returned. We're kind of dabbling in there. I don't know. I've always got a million balls in the
I
air.
love it.
Things keep coming up, and so I bring anything that I think is going to be useful back to the community, and I'm willing to make a fool out of myself on camera. I don't make a fool out of myself. I just appear as I am.
That's right.
But see, so much like yoga, you have to get people over the fear. When we first started promoting Rachel's, I went out and got a pretzel, and I put the text over as giant pretzel. And the tagline was, no, you don't have to tie yourself into a pretzel to do yoga. And, the concept is you're sitting in a chair. Anybody can do it. If you can't do what the teacher's saying, you adapt it, or good teachers show you how to adapt it. You do what you can do. But if you sit on the sidelines, you're not doing anything but sitting on the sidelines. So you got to put yourself out there again.
You said the word fear. Can you talk about
Fear.
that? Yeah.
Well,
I know
well,
we could have a whole other show just about that word and stroke survivors. Do you have a piece of advice? It'd be probably hard to narrow it down to one thing, but what kind of
no.
a message would you want to share about?
I have a meme that I said in a meeting one time. Sometimes you have to have the confidence in yourself to just go for it.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, that there's no mention of the word safety in there. I started thinking about fear about 8 years ago because I saw it kept coming up with the people that I was working with in person. So, if I could figure out fear, I don't know. I don't want to be rich. I could be rich, but I could help a whole lot of people because I think fear is the number one problem, other than wanting to go back to the day before your stroke. Once you get serious about recovery, I think fear is your biggest obstacle. It's what keeps people from trying yoga. That's what I was just saying. I get out there and show myself, and what I'm trying to do is get them to get up and get in another chair and try things, put themselves out there again. So, I've walked people with a gait belt. One time I was walking a guy, and I said, come on, Franklin, I've seen you walk from your chair to the house after your baseball game's over. You can do this. I said, it's 90% fear. He turned to me and said, try 100%. So fear is a big thing. I mentioned, sometimes you have to have the confidence in yourself and just go for it. But you have to do that in a safe way.
Sure.
You can't go for it if you absolutely can't do it. On the other hand, I have done things where I felt like I was ready and I just went for it, and I made big bigger hunks of progress than you normally do. I mean, normally you tick up and sometimes you tick back and you have to tick back up again. But I've had experiences where I just went for something. For example, there was this little concrete wall about this wide. And I used to go butterflying in the field before they built a house on it. Next, I take pictures of butterflies. And I'd either have to go down the riprap and back up, or I'd try and walk across it slowly. And the whole time I'm walking across it slowly, I'm going, I can't do this. I can't do this. And, sometimes it was only that high. So if I slipped off, I never did slip off or fall. But like the fear was like holding me back from the whole thing. And I said, one time, you could do this on land. If it didn't drop off and somebody told you to walk down this 6 inches, you would have no trouble doing it. So I convinced myself I could do it. And I've also found, again, safety is a big issue. I do everything, all my videos, you'll see me like tap on the chair next to me or talk about have a grab bar. Even if you're trying to light touch a counter and not touch the grab bar, you should have the grab bar there.
Yep.
I'm big on safety because I'm trying to help people not see them get hurt.
Right.
So, one day I said, you can do this. And I found that part of the thing about getting over fear is not loitering. When I would like walk across real slow, I had so much time to like lose my balance in each direction and recover and think about how scared I was. And so the day that I did it for the first time, I just got there and I said, just do it. Just do it. And so I went boom, 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 boom. I'm not fast, but way faster than like the flying Belinda version.
You
I
didn't
didn't allow the fear in.
the doubting Thomas inside your head prevent you from doing it.
Right. So I found that speeding it up a little bit, again, safety, and there was no safety out there. But like I said, it was only a foot off the ground, so it was a good place to practice that. And I was far enough along that I was confident. And like I said, even with the bouncy whoa 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 version, I never fell. It looked ugly and it was slow, and I knew that the whole thing had to do with fear. And after I did that once, guess what? I had the confidence. I went down and did it that way every day. I said, you did it yesterday.
Wow.
Do it today.
There you go.
So, believing, like we said earlier, if you're convinced you can't do something, don't even try, because you won't.
That's right.
You've already talked yourself out of it. So, I mean, fear it's really tough because it consumes some people. I mean, I've been consumed by it. Do I have the answer for it? Would be try and be confident about the things that you know you can do safely, and try not to let it in your head.
There you go. And sometimes
believe in yourself.
You just have to do it. Just like you said, just do it. There's a reason that the famous shoe company has that as their slogan, and it applies to so much in life.
Right, it does.
Just like the first video, sorry to interrupt you, Ralph, your first video where you're in front of the camera, not in back of the camera. I'm sure you had plenty of that self-doubt, probably a little fear to go with it too, because you had fought all your career not to be in front of the camera, but now you had to be in front of the camera for a reason.
It didn't bother me that much because I started with some basic exercises like marching and knee bends and squats and heel raises and things like that. So I knew what I was doing. I was more uncomfortable with the whole idea of being on camera than I was like really afraid. The other thing was I've always chosen to. I'm not a talent, and I had a stroke, and so I chose not to like try and do things like live where I'm talking. So I demonstrate the stuff and then I voice it over. I found that to be real good because all I have to do is do it. I don't have to get the words perfect and do it perfect. So one time you screw up the words, next time you don't do a very good demo, and it takes more takes.
Right.
the other thing is sometimes I forget about something until I go editing. I went, oh, darn, we didn't shoot that. But I can cover it in the voiceover. What kind of video can I put here that makes some sense to, cover this up? So, I've done, and sometimes I edited a video the other day. The last one I did was on a balance ball, and a friend of mine said, be careful what pants you wear. And I said, well, I always wear cotton. He said the slippery pants, like technical pants, if you get on a balance ball, the big round balls, and you start moving around, you can slip right off the ball from the pants. So I did a pickup and added that. And I just went back to a shot of me where I was like talking about, get comfortable on the ball and you can move around. The more you move around, you're engaging your core and you're challenging your vestibular system, your balance. So, a lot of times videos that I write down before we shoot get augmented before they get put up on YouTube. I did a voiceover pickup and added the thing about pants. I thought about something else to get us into it, so it transitioned. If you watch that, you'd never know that like I slapped that in there. I had blank spaces. I had enough blank time. One problem I run into sometimes is if I don't shoot enough video and I want to add something, well, I've gone to still frame and some stuff that we don't like to do as video producers, but it's not about slick videos. What did somebody say to me yesterday? They said something like, amazing videos, short, clear, to the point, and effective. And I went, good, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
That's right.
Most of my videos are all the exercise videos. I think the longest one's about 3 minutes. And I don't, tell you how I'm sitting in Southern California with the palm trees behind me and the breeze blowing on a beautiful day, sitting here having a double decaf latte, because I watched those kind of videos and I went, come on, show me the exercise. Are you going to make me scrub through your video? So mine are all business.
Love it.
I need to do, I think one of the best ones I did was interactive counter exercises. So I do like 9 different things at the counter, and I do like 40 of each. And I also learned how to, I knew YouTube would do it, but I didn't perfect it. I went and figured out how they did it, and I showed people how to do it. So you can play a YouTube video at 75%, 50%, or 25%. So I shot these 9 exercises at normal speed because I didn't want anybody who could do them well to be slowed down by a slow video. And if you play a video at 1/4 speed, well, I don't talk when I do the demo. I demonstrate each of the 9 and I talk, and then I just go through them. I count them out. I count 1 to 40 while I'm doing them. But if you don't hear that, it's no big deal. So you can play them at 25%, and that's really slow for somebody who really can't move that fast. In fact, I've had several people tell me they want me to do. People like to do things along, like I said earlier. I wanted to watch my TV and do exercises to it. Well, this is a way that you can do that. And I've had people ask me to do one on shoulder and core and some other things because they like to do them along. So I taught people how to play them at different speeds. The great thing is once you set a speed, it stays. I also put like jumpable links. Like there's a thing where you can do ampersand t equals and put the time on YouTube and it'll start in the middle of a video. So I found all the start points for the different 9 ones. And I put like heel raises, knee bends, whatever. And you can click that. So if you want to do 400 knee bends, I do 40. You can just keep and keep the same speed. So you're doing it at 50 or 75%. You leave it at 50 and just keep clicking that.
Yeah.
And it'll jumps back and it'll play 40 more. Well, I come from my video company. We did a lot of multimedia and interactive video, touchscreen, laser disc stuff. I saw the merging of computers and video a long time ago, 1990. And I capitalized on that in my company in Charlotte, and nobody was doing that kind of thing. So it gave us a different edge. And once we got doing that, the other companies, if somebody wanted to do something like that, would say, go see Ralph down at corporate media. So, and it was what I was interested in also. So, you should do what you love. if you're going to have a business, why not do what you love?
That's right.
So,
Ralph, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story, telling us all of these amazing projects and how you are supporting the stroke community through your Facebook groups, through your YouTube channel, through putting yourself out there, trying, not letting fear get the better of you. And you're giving hope to so many.
I hope so. And you know what hope is?
Tell me.
Hope is believing that tomorrow is going to be better. It's that simple. And if you don't have hope, you don't have much. You're much more likely to be sitting there without hope. You're likely to be sitting there having a pity party, wanting to go back to the day before your stroke. And I find that you really need to have hopes and dreams and plans in order to move on with your life. And I think when you finally reach that point, you're reaching a turning point in your recovery, because you can really, start covering some ground. Because before that, you're kind of spinning your wheels. To me, this is opinion, but that's what I think.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me, and we'll see you on Facebook.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Listen for Life podcast. We hope you feel empowered and supported. Head over to listenforlifepodcast.com to see the show notes with links and information from today's episode. Do you have a topic, a resource to share, or a guest recommendation? Inquiring minds want to know. Let us know in the comments section. Wishing you a fabulous week.